All right, what is up, everyone? It is Crackhead Hours once again, so you know what that means. It's time for a new episode of A Conversation with Kely, because I guess that's when we do these, is around very late at night. But it's a bit of a different episode tonight. We're not talking about Big Brother. We're not doing music video stuff. What are we talking about today, Allie?
We are talking about High School Musical, the musical series, season 2.
Yes. We have been trying to get this done for a couple weeks now, but we just haven't really found the right moment. But now we are finally going to be talking about this second season. Before we get into the second season, though, I do want to talk about our thoughts on the first season. I'm not going to say too much because I've already covered the first season pretty extensively on my channel, but I was a big fan of this show. I think something that it did really well in its first season was pay tribute to the original movie, but not be the original movie. It's very much its own thing. It delved a lot deeper into the characters' personal lives than I expected it to. And it had, I think, a sense of wit and a sense of, it was very self-aware. And I think that's something else that it did really well. And just in general was a really great surprise of a show for me. I was already looking forward to it, but I think that the way that it turned out, it was way better than I ever could have expected. And going into season 2, I was very, very excited for it. But what were your thoughts on this show overall? And I guess talk about your love for High School Musical as a whole.
Well, High School Musical has been something that I've loved since I was like 13
Yes.
or 12 or 13. So it's like something I grew up with and I've always had a big passion for, and it's just one of my favorite things. And then once I found out about this show, I was a little skeptical because I didn't know if it was going to be good or bad. But then watching season one, like I was really surprised, and I loved it so much. And it was just like a pure and wholesome show, which I loved.
Yeah, I think it was a really strong first season. But going into this season, I was really excited to see how exactly they were going to follow it up. Obviously, it was going to be a different musical and things like that. I liked that going into it. It was going to be a different musical. It wasn't High School Musical 2. It was Beauty and the Beast. I thought that was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was a lot riding on what exactly they were going to do when it came to Nini's character as well, because obviously, I'm sure y'all know Olivia Rodrigo is in a much different place than she was in season 1. She is bigger than the show at this point. So I really didn't know what exactly they were going to do with her. And also the fact that it was going to be 12 episodes also had me very excited to see how this season would overall turn out. So we have watched it, and I guess I'll give my initial thoughts, and then we'll dive a bit deeper into it. For me, I enjoyed this season. I did. I think that there's a lot of things that this season does do really well. It's a different type of show than season 1, which I think I'll get into a little bit more. But for me, it did not hit the same highs that I think season 1 did. I think this is a season that has a lot of very interesting ideas. I think it delves into some things that I really did enjoy. But I do think, unfortunately, this is a show that was severely impacted by the pandemic. And I think because there's a lot of stuff that they had to retool. There's a lot of things that they had to rewrite as a result of it, and it does show overall. But what did you think of this season?
I did enjoy it. Like, it was fun, and there was like some good ideas. But like you said, I definitely think they had to change some things because of the pandemic. So they. Why is there an echo?
Oh, because I was watching it on YouTube.
Oh. But yeah, I definitely think there's definitely good ideas, but a lot were affected because of the pandemic, so they couldn't really put a whole lot of effort that they could have done. There's a lot of good things and positive things about this season, but then there's a lot of negative things that I was disappointed by.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I think that this is still overall a very good season, but there are a lot of things that do frustrate me. I'm going to jump into the things that I really did enjoy about this season. I think the one thing that really sticks out to me about this season as opposed to the first one is that while the first season, I would say, it's very much about Nini and Ricky, Gina, and EJ. They are very much our four main characters. We focus on, whether it's the leads of High School Musical or the Wonder Studies, they're really the main focus of the show. This season, it's way more of an ensemble show. And I think, honestly, for the first couple episodes, it's actually way better because of that. I feel like everyone in at least the first 2 or 3 episodes of this show, it really felt like everyone was given something to do this season. Characters like, say, Ashlyn and Courtney, Carlos, Seb, they just have a lot more of a focus this season. And that's something that I really did enjoy overall. And I think it really gave us a chance to flesh out this, to really show the talents of this entire ensemble, because we already know Olivia Rodrigo is really great. We know Joshua Bassett's really great. We know how good Sofia Wylie is. But this season, we get to see a little more of how good Julia Lester is in the show, who's fucking phenomenal. I mean, she is something that I think that they really did not show in the first season that they show here. This is someone that is classically trained. I mean, she's been on Broadway before. She's done theater-related stuff. And this season really does take advantage of that. And for me, she was the big standout of this season. I loved everything that she pretty much did. I think that they really gave a lot of stuff for her to do this season, and I really enjoyed her presence throughout this show, as well as I would say, the other big standout for me, and I think someone else that just has a lot more to do. I really enjoyed Larry Saperstein as well as Big Red. I thought he also did a really strong job this season. I really liked what he ended up doing. And then out of the, Frankie Rodriguez is great as Carlos. Joey Serafini has a lot more to do as Seb. And then out of the 4, I would say for me, the big standout of this entire season is probably Sofia Wylie. And I feel like I don't really know what it was, but she was just killing it this season. They give her so many great, emotional monologues, and she just kills every single one of them. Everything with her character, it didn't matter what it was. It just felt so genuine. And it really felt like, I think she really understands this character even more than she did in season 1, because now we know a little bit more about Gina. I think she really kind of dived deep into it. So I really enjoyed a lot of the acting within this season.
I mean, I agree. I definitely loved Ashlyn. She was my favorite character this season.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, I'm a huge Olivia fan, so she's definitely high up there for me. But her character was a little bit iffy at times.
Yeah, I guess we'll dive into that right now.
I wouldn't say she's it was bad or anything, but she definitely had some things in them. She definitely was kind of iffy in the game in this season, where she wasn't as good as the first season first. Yeah,
and I think ultimately when it comes to Olivia Rodrigo, her performance is still great. She still does a really great job as this character, but she still gives, all the raw emotion. You still see the passion within Nini that she has, and you really do feel her growth this season, I think. I think what ultimately holds her back is that it feels like we start off where they had this really great opportunity, because we do know at the end of last season, she got into Yak. This is a dream school for her. This is something she's wanted to do pretty much all of her life. This is what she thinks her entire, life is riding on. She needs to get into this school. It's her passion. And so I like this because I was like, okay, this really gives us an opportunity to get to see Nini in a different light. How is she when she's not with Ricky? How is she when she's not with everyone? I really liked that idea of her being at Yak, and I feel like that's supposed to be her main story this season. And I say supposed to be because we don't really get a lot of it. We get 2 or 3 episodes of her in Yak before, for some reason, in episode 4, she's like, "Oh shit, yeah, let me come back. I miss my friends."
Well, basically, the reason why is because of the passing of her roommate.
Yeah.
So
And that's something
that was kind of why she had to go back home.
Right. And that's what, once I realized why they ended up doing that, because I at first thought this was because of the pandemic, because they couldn't shoot at that school and they had to quickly change things up. But then the actual reasoning is a lot more tragic than that. She's supposed to have this roommate character, and this was really supposed to be like one of her main storylines in the season. This was going to be a really close friend to her. Unfortunately, the actress sadly like passed away in like some car accident or something like during the hiatus, because they shot the first, from what I understand, they shot the first 2 episodes before everything shut down. And then when they came back, unfortunately, she had already passed away. So I think, you know, they had to quickly rewrite things for her character. And that's, you know, that was unavoidable. That was something that they couldn't fix. Obviously, I can imagine that there's a lot of retooling that they needed to do. And, you know, I definitely don't envy them for that at all. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to have this whole arc planned for this character. And then, unfortunately, because of, you know, someone passing away, they had to quickly just rewrite everything. The problem is, it feels obvious that they had to rewrite it. And I feel like Nini as a character at times feels like she doesn't have an arc in this season. I felt like she was really kind of missing something within this season. And I think that really dives into my biggest problem with the season overall, is that while we do have the musical going on, and we'll get into that in a little bit, you know, what they end up doing with the actual musical, I don't really feel like that's what this season's about. You know, you have the musical in there, but this season is really about a bunch of relationship drama that these characters are facing that I just didn't care all that much about. And unfortunately, the worst of it, I think, is with Nini and Ricky, who I have to say, throughout the first like 5 episodes of the season, I remember saying this to you, they were boring as shit to me. Like, I felt zero, and it's not because of them breaking up, because I think that they're good enough actors to work through it. I think just in general, they had no idea what to do with Nini and Ricky for a while. And so you're just kind of watching it and you're like, everyone else is so much more interesting than them. And the second that Nini is, especially once she got back to East High and was just suddenly back in the show, she has this role now as like, she's like the Beast Rose or whatever. It just felt like they had no idea what to do with her as a character. And it's just unfortunate because, like I said, Olivia Rodrigo is a very talented actress. And I just felt like for a while, they just didn't really know what to do with her this season.
Basically, when she came back home, like, her and Ricky were just kind of there.
Pretty much.
Like, maybe next season they'll have a better storyline, just like season 1. But they were literally just kind of like filler this season. Like, pretty
much, yeah.
I was pretty disappointed with Ricky this season.
Yeah, which is weird because
he got a little better, but he just wasn't as good as season 1.
Yeah, we can definitely talk. We'll definitely talk about that too. But like, it's weird too because, you know, these are supposed to be like the main characters of the show, and this time around, it feels like they're just not as important. Like, it just feels like they're kind of there, and the only reason Nini and Ricky are there is because they have to be. I just didn't feel their writing was very consistent, and for me, at least for a while, I thought they were probably like the biggest issue with this season. But then I started to notice other things, because let me get into the stuff I really did like about this season at first. I like the idea that we get to see a new show. I like that it wasn't High School Musical 2, because honestly, if they would have done that, I think it just would have felt like a retread. I know a lot of people...
It would be really repetitive if it was just High School Musical 2.
Yeah, I know a lot of people wanted them to do High School Musical 2, but ultimately I think it's better that they didn't, because you know, it felt more organic that way. They're not always going to be doing High School Musical. And I like that at first they thought they were going to, but instead it ends up being Beauty and the Beast because of this thing called the Mankeys, and which you can see is really stressing Miss Jen out as a character. So they decided to do Beauty and the Beast instead. And I really liked that idea. I'm like, okay, we get to see them do a more classic musical. It's a little bit more Broadway. We get to really show some of these characters' talents. And for a while, like I said, I really enjoyed that because you get to see how the dynamic of this group is when Nini's not there. You know, Nini is their star essentially. And when she's not there, how do they really function? And I really liked that idea. I liked getting to see characters like Ashlyn, like Courtney, you know, like Carlos and Seb get a lot more to do in terms of the roles. I especially loved that Ashlyn ended up being Belle. I thought that was an amazing choice because here's this character that, you know, was really good in season 1, but didn't really get the focus that she needed. And I think this season she really does get that focus. And for me, this season is at its best when it's focusing on her. I really enjoyed, like I said, all of the stuff they did with her this season, everything that's riding on her, becoming Belle, you know, and especially her relation with Big Red, I thought was really sweet. And out of all the relation drama going on, I thought theirs was easily the best. A lot of the other stuff felt forced to me. I felt like what they did with Ashlyn and Big Red, it just made a lot of sense because, you know, these are two characters that you never would have expected to be together. And they really do work well together this season. I think it brings out the best in both of them as characters. We get to dive a bit deeper into Big Red's future, what he wants to do. And we also get to see how he feels like there's a lot of pressure on him because he's dating the lead now. And I kind of liked that dynamic a lot. So I thought, like I said, their stuff was probably the best this season.
It was like, their stuff was really genuine too. Yeah. And I liked that. She was lead of the play just so it's not so predictable.
Oh, yeah. I definitely enjoyed that a lot. And I thought that definitely is like when the show was at its best. But like I said, I also like just getting to see everyone, you know, in their own dynamic, sort of. You know, you have Carlos. He's no longer just the choreographer. He's actually in the show this time around as Lumiere. I like that idea. I like that Seb has, you know, is Chip now. He's not one of the main characters. He's Chip. And I really liked seeing that. EJ being Gaston, I thought was a really fun idea. I'm like, this is perfect for him. Like, I couldn't thought of a better choice for them to do that. You know, Courtney being Mrs. Potts, I thought all of the roles, like, they really picked the right ones, and I really liked what they ended up doing with that. If only we actually got to see them really rehearse this musical, because this is where we get into my main problem with this season.
Oh, I know.
Is that the musical itself, unfortunately, really does kind of take a back seat this season. And I really do think this is because of COVID. I think it's one of those things where they only had so much time to shoot in the auditorium, to shoot scenes within the school. I think that's why there's a lot of time this season where they're not in the school, where they're off doing their own things. There's a lot of filler this season. And I think it's mainly just because, again, they weren't really able to tell the story to their fullest potential. And that was disappointing to me because I really wanted to see them, you know, working on Beauty and the Beast more. And it's not like we don't. There's a really great episode where Miss Jen has them kind of like, you know, recognize, you know, to get in touch with like their acting and to really sort of become their characters. And it's a really good way to see, you know, how they are, you know, how they really are within these roles. And I really enjoyed that, but I just needed more. And that was probably the thing that held this season back for me, is that I felt like I was watching more just like a typical like high school drama than High School Musical. I felt like the musical was secondary this season, and I think that held things back a bit.
This was just more, this is more just like just a typical like teen drama from like the CW or something, because
definitely better than that. Definitely better than the CW, because that's a whole other.
I mean, CW has good things like One Tree Hill and Gossip Girl and stuff.
That's true.
But
I've heard they're good.
But yeah, like this was definitely just like a typical musical drama. Didn't really, but it didn't really focus on the actual show, which I don't know why they did that, but they should have done way more with the show.
Yeah, I think they definitely should have done more with the show. And I think the other thing that does hold it back for me is the entire season, there's supposed to be this rivalry with this other school known as North High. You know, they constantly bring it up, how they apparently are doing the exact same show as them, which I think is kind of a dumb idea. I don't really like the idea that they're doing the same exact show. I thought that was a little contrived with the way they went about that. But I was like, okay, I really like this idea because there's so much more writing on this musical. And once again, that's another element I just don't think we saw enough of. I think we need to see a lot more of North High to really show their competition. It's not like we don't. We do get to see this character, Lily, who is the kind of character that you love to hate. You know, she's very vindictive. She is very pretentious at points. And, you know, she feels like she be the star at all times. And I think Olivia Rose-Keegan does a really good job as this character. I just wanted more of her. I wanted more of her. I wanted more of like the French dude that Ashlyn runs into. I wanted more of Derek Hough on this show. I needed more from...
Yeah, Derek Hough was really underused.
Yeah, especially since he's supposed to be like the main thing that's like stressing Miss Jen out. He's only in like 2 episodes this entire season. So I think that's another element that
that's basically like Ariana and Scream Queens. They used her for promo and killed her off.
I mean, they didn't kill him off, but
yeah, but they just didn't use him for promo, really.
Yeah. I think it's another one of those things where like they probably would have shown it more had the pandemic not been a thing. But unfortunately, because of the fact that they had to shut things down, I think they just couldn't really show it. And I think what's really disappointing to me is that I just didn't really feel like we got to see that competition much. Like, what are they really up against? We don't really know. You know, we don't really know what they're doing. We know it's a little bit more extravagant in that they have like a dance studio and things like that. But that just wasn't enough for me. Like, I remember getting to the end of the season and being like, I really don't know what to compare this to because I don't know what their competition is. And that was frustrating to me because I think it would have made the season that much better had they put the focus on that.
I think with the North High thing, they should have definitely focused more on that and had more of a storyline because that would have made the season even like better.
Right, and it would have heightened the tension a lot more.
Yeah, and then Lily, like, I'm not really a fan of her, but like she's definitely the person that we need for the show.
You need that antagonist, definitely.
She's basically the Rachel Berry who wants to be the star all the time.
Pretty much, yeah. I think what the thing with Lily, though, is that I felt like she would be there she'd come up every few episodes and you almost forget that she's in the show at points, and then she'd show up and you're like, oh yeah, Lily's back. I think she's a character that they should have done more with. The character I really do like is Howie, this guy that Courtney is working with. You eventually find out that he is part of North High, and I liked their relationship a lot. I thought it was really interesting the way they went about it, but that's another character that I really hope they give more to in season 3 because there's just a lot of stuff with him that's very unclear to me. I don't really know where they're going with this character, and I think if they would have focus more on North High a little bit as much as you do East High. And I'm not saying like every episode need to focus on North High, but like every so often, like we get to see what they're doing. Maybe we get a little more behind the scenes of that. I think it would have just made things that much better. And I think it would have given some clarity to these characters. You know, the idea of like how far is North High willing to go, you know, that's an idea that I think they barely scratched the surface of. So again, I needed more from them overall. Another storyline I think I need a lot more from, and it's a character that I didn't care for at all in season 1. EJ is a lot better this season. I didn't like him in season 1 because, like I said, I thought that as a character, he just wasn't written very well. It felt like he had an arc and it ended way too early. And then it felt like the start of another season.
Yeah, literally in season 1, he was just kind of there. But this season, it was a huge improvement for him. But the one thing I find very ingenuine is the very last scene with him and Gina in the finale.
Yeah, and we can talk about the finale a little bit more because that really does bring a lot of this season down. But when it comes to the Gina and EJ element, I do like it. I like where they end up going with them this season. I like that we focus a little bit more on the fact that he's a senior now, and this is like his last hurrah. But it's another one of those things where it's like we don't really get to see him be Gaston, and that's honestly one of the things I was most looking forward to is really getting to see him play this character because I think he fit that role so well. But I do think I was just gonna say that would have been perfect for him. Yeah, definitely. I do think they make up for it, though, with diving a bit more into his future, diving a bit more into what he wants to be versus what he's told he needs to be. I think that's a really good arc for him. It's a little bit more to his character overall that I overall really did appreciate. Why do I hear an echo?
Echo.
That was weird. I heard an echo. But I really did like what they ended up giving to his character this season. And they dive a little bit more into his potential relationship with Gina. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought that they did a good job with that. But again, it's another thing that I think was just a little bit rushed this season. I would have liked to spend a bit more time in it because it did at points feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. So this is what I mean by we focus a lot on relationship drama. That's another thing that kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. There's another whole subplot with like Carlos and Seb, and I really like those two a lot, but they try to like complicate things with like some fling that like Carlos had, and I just felt like that storyline also came out of nowhere. So again, there's a lot of things that I think again, it's because they had to rewrite a lot of the season. It almost feels like for a while they're just kind of adding conflict because they need it, not because it actually fits. It's just kind of there because they need conflict. They need to build tension, and they're not focusing on the things that I really want them to. With that being said, let's get to the thing that most disappointed me this season, and that's with Ricky. Like I said, Nini's arc. What I will say is that I do think they finally got a handle of what it's supposed to be. Her entire arc is essentially supposed to be like, who is she without Ricky? Is she able to be her own person, discovering more about herself? Is there a way for her to really differentiate who she is versus who she is with Ricky? I think that's a really good arc for her. And I do think it makes Nini become even much better of a character. Like when she changes her name to Nina, I liked that a lot. I was like, oh my God, this is a really interesting direction for her. She's becoming
I thought that was very unique for her, and it was like a good touch to the story.
Yeah, and in some ways it's a little meta too, because you can tell that they're sort of trying to write around the fact that Olivia Rodrigo is like this huge star now, so they're kind of trying to like take advantage of that, which I really liked. That being said, I can't really say the same for Ricky this season, who honestly is kind of insufferable throughout the majority of it. I feel like Ricky is at his absolute worst throughout the majority of this season. There are so many times where he's just acting kind of just like a petulant child at points with the way that he goes about things. He's always needs to get his way. He always is trying to control me. I think that they had some semblance of an arc for him. I think what they were really trying to do is dive into the idea that he's acting out because he doesn't like the way that he doesn't want to move on. He doesn't want to accept change. He wants things to stay the way they are. And I think that's a good arc. I think, unfortunately, it's extremely underwritten, though, and they just don't dive into it quite enough as they should. So for me, I thought he was easily the most disappointing character this season. They try to make up for it towards the end, but I just felt it was a little too late. Like, I liked what they tried to do with him, with like his dad dating Miss Jen and him not being okay with that. But it just felt undercut by a lot of other elements this season that I just didn't like about his character.
Yeah, next season they have to focus on him.
Yeah.
Like, just him by himself and him kind of discovering himself a bit.
Yeah.
Because this season, I don't know what they were trying to do. I don't know what they were trying to do with his character. It was just very off.
Yeah, I think they had some good ideas, like I said, but I think it just didn't fully come together. And by the end of it, I was just kind of like, oh, so it's just kind of like season 1 again, where he's, upset about his parents separating. Now he's upset about his parents moving on. It's like, it's really not that different from what we got with him in season 1. And I just feel like this character as a whole really hasn't changed that much, and I want to see more growth from him. I thought we were getting it in season 1, and it feels like here they've kind of just retread him back to where he was, and now it's just at a point where he's just kind of insufferable. Like I said, I do think he got better as the season went on, but I don't think they did enough with him. I also felt he didn't share enough scenes with Ashlyn. Ashlyn's supposed to be his scene partner. I think we should have seen a lot more of those two together, and we really didn't.
Yeah, they didn't really have much of a story at all. They should have made a connection, but they barely had anything.
Yeah, I think they easily could have done something where, she comes to his house, they rehearse some scenes together. Maybe it gets them to become closer as friends. I kept waiting for them to do something like that, but they never did. And I thought that was really weird. Similar to how I don't think they really took advantage of the fact that Ashlyn is supposed to be Gina's roommate now. We don't see enough of that either. We do see that friendship, but I thought there was something that we'd see a lot more of this season, and there's a lot of moments where we just don't see enough of that, and I thought that was a little bit disappointing overall. But that being said, all of these flaws I have, this show is still very entertaining. It's still very fun. I don't think there weren't a lot of moments this season where I was overall bored with this show. I think there are only 2 episodes. There are 2 episodes this season that I really didn't like because they kind of felt like filler to me. But other than that, I did still enjoy a good majority of this season overall. I thought it still was very entertaining because of, like I said, the fact that they are trying to make it more of an ensemble show. I thought that worked out very well. And I did like a lot of what they were trying to do with these characters. I just think that, again, because of COVID overall, it just didn't fully come together in the way that they wanted it to. I think the other thing to really bring up, though, is that the music this season is still fantastic. I really enjoyed a lot of the music here, and it's a lot. There's a lot more of it compared to season 1, and a lot more in terms of styles, a lot more in terms of who gets a song this season. I feel like everyone has at least one memorable song. One of the best being this girl group number with Ashlyn, Gina, and Courtney that I've been listening to constantly. It's called 1, 2, 3, and it is one of the best.
So good.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best. But also Nini's song, Rose Song, is really great.
Yeah, I really like the Rose song a lot. I enjoyed the one that Carlos did for Seb. There's a lot of really great moments.
I actually like the one in the finale as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as a song. I don't know if I enjoyed it in context of the actual show, but I definitely enjoyed it as a song.
I think that should have been an actual finale, at the very end, not just in the middle of the episode. It should have been an actual end song.
Yeah, I think so too. I liked a lot of the songs this season in terms of the original ones, and they do a lot of good stuff with the Beauty and the Beast. They do a lot of Beauty and the Beast songs. They even do some that aren't from the movie. They do some that are from the Broadway musical, which I appreciated because I feel like it's not talked about enough. That being said, I do think they wasted quite a few of them. Like there's a lot of moments where you'll have an iconic song from Beauty and the Beast, and it's just a character singing in like a dark room to nothing. They're just singing to themselves. I think the best one that they did for me was Ashlyn's cover of Home. It's in one take. It is her trying to really channel her inner Belle. It's absolutely beautiful. It really shows Julie Lester's range, and I really liked what they ended up doing with that. But what was frustrating for me is that I think definitely, I mean, just on a production level alone, like there was so much more put into their production of Beauty and the Beast than High School Musical, because while they were in a gym, this time they're in an auditorium. Everything they did, like production wise, was so extravagant. You know, you felt like you were watching an actual musical, and we get to see honestly very little of it at the end of the day. Like we get to the opening night episode, there's only really 2 performances. We get way less of it than we did of High School Musical, and that was very disappointing to me. I'm kind of hoping that in season 3 maybe they'll do some flashbacks and we'll get to see like some stuff in season 2, like in terms of the musical that we didn't get to see. But
I feel kind of like behind the scenes.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool if they did that, but I feel like, I don't know, I wanted to see more of the actual production, especially the fact that, you know, there's so much more writing on this production. We didn't even really get to see enough of it. I like the Be Our Guest number. I thought that was fantastic. I thought, you know, for me, that felt like just what you want live theater to be. And I was like, yes, I feel this. I'm in the moment. This feels so satisfying in that way. Unfortunately for me, nothing really was on that level in terms of what they did with the actual production. So I think they just needed to do a little bit more of that. I also thought it was really weird that, again, we spend the entire season with North High's performance. We don't even get to see it. We don't get to see anything that they did. Aside from like, yeah, it was just really weird, because I think Ricky says in like the penultimate episode, he's like, yeah, your production was really great. I enjoyed your production a lot. And I was like, that's wonderful that you enjoyed it, but like, I don't even know like what to think of that, because I didn't see it. So I think that's another thing that's like, if you know, things were different and they were actually able to like make a regular season, I think we probably would have dedicated an entire episode, or at least I would have, to North High's performance, them seeing North High's performance, scouting out the competition, really seeing what they're up against. Think, say, Glee, when they would see Vocal Adrenaline's performance, or when they would see like Throat Explosion, you know, when they would have those competitions and they would see their, you know, what they're up against. That's really what I needed from North High, and I just didn't really feel that rivalry all that much. And I think there was
they were very underused, just like Derek Huff.
Yeah. But then we get to the finale, and this is really where things get frustrating for me, because if it already felt like there was a lot of elements of the season that are very underwritten, the finale makes virtually everything feel pointless. I mean, we start off and it's literally the end of the show. They're bowing. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, we had this cliffhanger in the penultimate episode where they stole Ricky's harness, and that doesn't come into play at all. It's
I was very confused about that. Like, they didn't talk about any of that.
Yeah, it felt like it was just kind of there because they needed a cliffhanger. That's exactly why it's there.
Like, what's the point? We want to know what happened.
Yeah, it was really, really weird to me. I felt like, you know, season 1, they had that really strong cliffhanger where, you know, Ricky sees his mom with another man. He freaks out. It's a really strong moment because you understand what this means to Ricky. Here, it's like, oh, she stole his harness. Okay, what comes of it? Nothing, apparently.
Yeah, like, what's her, like, motive?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's very unclear what her motive is. It felt like they were kind of trying to flesh out Lily a bit more, but then doing that, it's like, oh, I guess she's actually playing him. I don't know. It was just very confusing to me overall, what they were really trying to do with her. And what's also annoying is that there's, at least right now, there is no resolving that at the moment. Like, there's no, there's really no conclusion to that. You know, he's still going out with Lily. It seems like he generally likes her. And it seems like he's probably going to end up being played by her, I guess. But here's why it doesn't really matter, because you get to this episode, you know, where Miss Jen is freaking out about the Mankeys. She doesn't know if they're actually going to qualify. She doesn't know if they're actually going to win. They get the envelope, and all of a sudden, after an entire season of them, you know, waiting for the Mankeys and them being told how important this is, they suddenly decide, you know what, we don't want this anymore. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, the entire season is predicated on them winning these Mankeys. It's predicated on seeing how much this means to Miss Jen, how much she is working them, to the point where there's literally a moment where she tells Ricky, just jump off something. You know, I don't care if you get hurt, just jump off something. And I really like that moment a lot, because I'm like, okay, you really can see how this is getting to Miss Jen, how it's really making her this very reckless teacher in that way. You know, someone that's not necessarily as good as, you know, she's really getting in over her head when it comes to this. I was waiting for a moment where, you know, maybe you see them not do as well as they wanted to, or you know, maybe the results are already determined or something like that. But instead, they just don't want to see the results. And I don't understand why. Like, I get it that they didn't really care about the actual awards. I get that. But why did they just like throw it away? Like, why didn't they just look at it? They knew how much this meant to Miss Jen. You know, it was something that they worked hard for. I don't understand why they didn't just look at the results anyway. It just felt so unsatisfying. It felt like nothing actually mattered.
Yeah, it's like they didn't care, and they're just like, yeah, let's just throw this away.
Yeah, it was just very disappointing to me. Like, I was sitting there and I was like, you literally just spent an entire season trying to, you know, show how important this was, and really kind of, you know, building up this rivalry between these two schools, to then at the end be like, fuck it, who cares? It just doesn't work. Like, it just feels unsatisfying, and I don't think they did a very good job with that at all. And I don't even blame like the pandemic for that. I just blame them like not caring as much about it, and them being like, who cares about it? So I just was not very happy with the way they ended up wrapping things up there. We do sort of get a conclusion to the Gina and EJ of it all, where she confesses that she likes him. I think the best scene in this entire episode is this talk between Nini and Gina. Yeah. It was very satisfying. You see how much you see how far both these characters have come. They've really gone from, you know, two people that really couldn't stand each other and, you know, were constantly being rivals, to genuine friends who care about each other, you know, and Nini basically confesses to everything. Gina confesses to everything, you know, going as far as to tell her about the stuff that she stole from her and things like that. Like when she was a Wonder Study, it was a really good moment. And to me, it was the only moment of this finale that felt like a finale. Everything else, it just felt like another episode. It was very strange.
That was such a like sweet scene, and like the acting was great, and like it was just genuine, and
it was a really good moment of character development.
Definitely the best scene and character development of that episode.
Yeah, definitely. I think just the rest of this episode for me, again, it just, nothing about it felt like a finale. It all just felt like none of it really mattered at the end of the day. And, oh, it's summer now, so I guess they're going to do High School Musical 2 songs probably next season. Yay, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible finale. I think there are some good things in there. But the fact that most of it doesn't even have a conclusion, we don't actually see Gina and EJ kiss, so we don't even know if it actually happened. We don't really get to see the results of the Mankeys. There is no resolution. There's no payoff. There's no consequence to Lily stealing Ricky's harness. I guess that's going to be resolved in the next season, or at least I hope so. I hope they don't just abandon it entirely like it didn't happen, because to me, like, if you're going to write something, I've always said you need to stick to it. You can't just like flat out abandon it. So I hope that they at least address it in the next season, but we'll see how that really does end up going. I did like what they did with Nini, where we now see that Gina's brother is like a recording artist. And what I think they're really trying to do is that Nini's going to go in a similar direction to
I can see that.
Olivia Rodrigo. And that's kind of why they're writing it that way, so they can probably include more original songs from her, which they absolutely should. They need to, they definitely should capitalize on the fact that like Olivia Rodrigo is this huge, you know, pop artist now, and she's in the show. You know, it gives her a lot more incentive to stick around overall. So I
wonder if she would sing one of her songs from Sour.
I think it's definitely possible that she could end up, you know, release. I could see her releasing like some singles in there or something. But
watch her just sing "Driver's License" to Ricky.
That'd be interesting. I really don't know where they're going with that either. If Ricky and Nini are going to get back together, because obviously it's kind of awkward right now with Olivia Rodrigo and Joshua Bassett. But aside from that, like, this just wasn't a very satisfying finale, and it really did solidify my thoughts on the season, which again, I don't think this is a bad season. I think it's actually pretty decent. There's a lot of elements I like. I know I'm nitpicking a lot of things you think I wouldn't like this season because of that, but I actually really do. Like I said, I think there's a lot of really strong elements here. I like that it's more of an ensemble show. I like that we got to flesh out a lot of these characters a lot more. But I think that there were some opportunities that the show just didn't really take advantage of. It felt much more like just a typical, you know, teen drama than a show that's supposed to be about these characters and them pursuing this musical. The musical just felt secondary this season. And for me, that's really what kind of brought things down. I needed a lot more of that. I think that the tension between North High and East High, it just wasn't really there in the way I wanted to. I think there were quite a few underused storylines. Oh yeah, another one we didn't talk about, the storyline with Mr. Mazzara and Miss Jen just came the fuck out of nowhere. Like, he likes her all of a sudden. Which is like, it's cute, I guess, but like, we didn't really get to see like enough of it. So like, I hope they can focus on that more.
There was definitely, that one's just kind of another storyline that's just kind of there because we didn't really get much.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe season 3 will have more of that. We'll see.
Yeah. Bottom line, I do still think this is a very entertaining season. I think there's a lot of elements that I really did enjoy. But for me, I don't think it hit the same highs as season 1. There are a lot of fun musical moments. There is a lot more for certain characters to do. But as a whole, this does feel like an incomplete season that I do think was severely impacted by the pandemic. So for me, I am going to grade this. You don't have to grade this if you don't want to. But I am going to go ahead and give this season of High School Musical, the musical, the series, a B-.
That sounds fair. I'll rate it as well. I would probably rate it a B.
All right. Yeah. So that's
really, like, I didn't hate it or anything. It's just it didn't live up to season 1.
No,
but I mean, hopefully season 3 will be a little better. But
yeah, I think season 3 can be really good. I think there's a lot of opportunities that I think there's a lot that they can do with season 3, especially if it's going to be more set in the summer. I think you can really get into some more like personal, from what I understand, it's going to be more set in the summer. It's not going to be as focused on them doing the musical. So maybe we get a little maybe it feels a little bit more focused in that way, because like I said, this season was definitely not the most focused throughout the majority of it. So I think that's kind of what,
if it's focused on the summer, they can sing more High School Musical 2 songs,
I think they are.
Also, they can sing Teen Beach.
I think they probably are, because like they did that medley in episode 1, but they didn't really do any other songs besides that, aside from the You Are the Music and Me at like the end. But that was more just like a behind the scenes thing. That wasn't like an actual moment. So I do think they actually are going to probably incorporate some more songs from High School Musical 2, but we'll see how it really does end up going. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it for this review. I'm glad we were able able to do this finally. Actually, we were planning to originally do like individual episode reviews for this show, but after the first episode, I was like, yeah, we don't need to do individual episode reviews. Like we can just wait till the season is over, and you know, I'm glad we finally.
I'm also like, I've been yawning a lot just because it is late, but yeah.
But yeah, this was a lot of fun.
I'm also have a little bit of sniffles.
Oh, I hope you're okay. But
I hope so.
Yeah, this was definitely a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to talk about this season overall. As always, guys, comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of this season of High School Musical, the series. Would really season 2. Would really love to hear your thoughts on all of that. That's it for this video.
This was really fun, and yes. I can't wait to do season 3.
Yes, definitely. That should be a lot of fun for sure. I was very happy to watch this entire season with you. That was very fun.
Me too.
But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's late, so we're probably going to go to bed, but we will see you guys in our next video, and we will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Bye.